As you said, I'm going to be talking about how to get ahead of the competition with inbound marketing. Before I jump into that, a little bit about myself. On a personal level, I'm a Sunderland fan, which isn't the best thing to be bragging about right now. And I've got two children, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. So when I'm not working at Digital 22, they keep me pretty busy. From a professional perspective, I'm the director of an inbound marketing and HubSpot agency, Digital 22. And my personal background is in SEO, everything to do with search engine optimization and organic growth. That's how I found my way into running a digital marketing agency. The reason I'm here to talk about inbound marketing is over the last 6 years or so, I've helped roll out inbound marketing and inbound marketing strategies to 81 companies in a variety of industries, including people in the training industry and educational industries as well. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, I want to chat about what inbound marketing exactly is before we jump into how to keep ahead of your competition using it. So essentially, inbound marketing is a process to market effectively across the full buyer's journey. It's a good 13 years or so old now as a concept. It was coined by HubSpot, who's a big software company that does inbound marketing software. And essentially, what you see on screen here is the methodology of inbound marketing. It's broken into two component parts. There's a process and there's a list of tactics. And what hasn't changed since 13 years ago is the process of what you're wanting to achieve with inbound marketing, which is essentially attracting strangers. So finding new people, creating brand awareness. So attracting strangers and turning those people into visitors on one of your digital estates, mainly your website. When you create visitors to your website, you want to convert those people into leads. So they go into some sort of CRM and you capture their data, and then you want to nurture those leads to close them into customers. Like I said, this hasn't changed. What does change a lot is this bottom half, which is the tactics involved. Digital marketing, inbound marketing is a fast-moving game. So the tactics that were on here 13 years ago are a little bit different to what are here today. But essentially, the tactics are things like SEO, PPC, blogging, social media, and more recently, things like video marketing and podcasting to do the attract bit to bring people in. Once you've got them in, we use things like landing pages, content marketing, social media ads, the UX of your website to help convert those people into leads. And once they are leads, using things like your marketing CRM, marketing automation, lead scoring, all of those things to help close customers. So, like I say, the methodology is 13 years or so old now. So there's a lot of people doing it. It's been very well adopted. It's very well known. So where people's minds at now is, if everyone's doing it, how do I do it differently? How do I do it better? And essentially, how do I stay ahead of the competition? And where I think about this right now is in 3 areas, which are the ones I'm going to run through. It's thinking holistically about inbound and digital, not silo channels. It's making it personal, having that sort of personal brand, either as a company or as an individual aspect to it, and really being the source of knowledge on what I would call a topic, which I'll jump into. So firstly, thinking holistically. The way we found ourselves becoming an inbound marketing agency was the trends that we were noticing that traditional digital marketing was becoming very expensive. If you look at the cost per click on something like Google AdWords, what it was 10 years ago versus what it is now, it's probably 100x in terms of price, and everyone's doing it. And what most people are doing with digital marketing is completely concentrating on the decision phase. So when I talk about the decision phase, they're expecting people to interact with their digital marketing, click through, buy something online instantly, or get in touch to get a quote. When the truth of the fact is, there's only a very small percentage of your audience on any of your digital real estate in active buying decision mode. In most industries, it's about 3%. So the reason we started inbound marketing is, okay, how can we speak to that other 97% of people that are on our website? Instead of saying, you either get a quote for us or you go, what can we do to help them in their earlier stages of the buyer's journey? So when they're researching and when they're comparing, and that's how we got there. And one of the dangers with digital marketing is this idea of siloing. People will try a channel. So I'm going to try social media, I'm going to try SEO, I'm going to try PPC, but they're not thinking about it holistically. They're just doing one channel and expecting that channel to take people from strangers through to leads, through to customers. And like I say, that doesn't happen very often. So how do we take a more holistic view if that's what we need to do? The approach I like the phrase I like to use is have a what's next approach. So we're going to do something, we're going to do a piece of digital marketing. What is our expectation that the customer is going to do next? So if you took something like social media, I'm going to put a post on social media. What do I want the user to do with that? Do I want them just to read it and scroll by and continue with their day? Or is there an action I can get them to take which will help turn them into a visitor? So you could send them to a piece of content like a blog is a pretty typical example. So I'm going to do a social post. I'm going to send someone to a blog. Again, what's next? What do I want the visitor to do? Do I want them to come on the website, read the blog, as most people do, and leave? Or can I give them a good call to action to do a next step? So I've sent them to a blog. Can I offer them some sort of premium content, a video, whatever it is, which is a more in-depth version of that? So it takes them a deeper dive of the blog. And can I gate that, or whatever your methodology is, to capture them into a lead? And again, keep asking yourself what's next. So I've driven someone from a social visitor to a lead. How do I nurture them into a customer? And this is how to get a really holistic approach to inbound marketing, is keep asking yourself what's next? What is my expected journey I want someone to do when interacting with each of my individual pieces of content? And that will really increase the impact of it if you're thinking about what's next. One of the other ways to get more holistic when you're thinking about inbound marketing, or if you're already doing it, is to build what I would call a marketing to sales funnel, which sets expectations of what you're wanting to achieve, but it also helps you for analysis on where to get better. So as a typical marketing sales funnel on the screen, we're going to generate X amount of visitors. Of those visitors, I expect to convert 2% into contacts. Of my contacts, a certain percentage of them will become qualified, which is where these leads, what we would call marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads, will come in, and I would expect a certain percentage of those qualified leads to turn into opportunities. When you do your first marketing to sales funnel, it'll be wildly wrong. It's very hard to guess these things, but the idea is you have set yourself expectations on where you want to get to. And it means you can have more informed conversations as a company around how you influence ultimately this bottom number, which is how many opportunities is my marketing providing. And most people by default, without having something like a funnel like this, will always just think, I want more opportunities here. I'm just going to put more people into the top of the funnel. I'm going to get more visitors, which will get me more leads, which will get me more opportunities, which is great. And it's a viable tactic, but it's not a long-term tactic. It's not something you can constantly do. Where you can start to get clever and get ahead of your competition is have a look at these conversion rates. And by having single digit increases here, you can sometimes influence here with like a double impact. So if I can go from a 2 to 4% conversion rate on my website, I'm going to get 30 opportunities instead of 15 with exact same number of visitors. The next bit to thinking holistically is actually map out your buyer's journey. So this is doing your research into how does somebody go from never hearing about us to ultimately buying from us. And they will typically go through 3 stages. So if I use inbound marketing as a context, at the awareness stage, people's problems are things like, how do I drive more leads? How do I grow my business? These are the sorts of questions people are typing into Google. So we make sure we show our content at that stage and we get in front of our prospects at the earliest possible stage. And awareness-based marketing is really the key to driving the top of that funnel. It's building traffic. When someone gets to consideration, so they've asked themselves a question like, how do I grow my business? And obviously there's a million ways to grow your business, and there's a million ways to market yourself. You can put your logo on a bus, you can do inbound marketing, you can host an event, whatever it is. And the key here when you're doing the marketing is to be truthful around when your solution is good and isn't good, so that you're qualifying people through. Inbound marketing isn't right for everyone. There's pros and cons, there's better marketing to do in particular situations. But if you can, again, be the person who's providing this content, this is going to be where you start to generate your qualified leads. And then the decision part of the funnel is someone's thought, how do I grow my business? They've thought, okay, I've compared my options. Inbound marketing is the way I want to go forward. How do I choose a specific agency or vendor of any kind to provide inbound marketing for me? And that's what's in the decision stage. And when you're doing decision stage marketing, this is where you generate qualified leads or sales ready leads. So again, to think holistically, you have to map out how you believe your customers flow through that journey. Like, where do they start, not where do they end? And to do all of this, like, we have a process. This is a process we run for clients, but equally you can do it yourself. You can do it in-house. This is the process that we use to run an inbound marketing engine, which starts here with the sort of green colored bits, which is all around the foundational work you'll need to do before you get started. So one thing you don't want to do is just jump in and start writing things without a strategy of what you expect it to do. So first things first is to get to know the business inside and out, like what makes us unique, talk to your salespeople, talk to your people who are delivering the training, the people who actually get the feedback from the customers. Why do people choose us? And understand that first before you do anything else. Next, and this is the piece that I find most marketers miss when we're speaking with companies, is really researching your customers and prospects and understand your audience. And this isn't, okay, we're going to target women between 30 and 35 who earn X amount of money. It's not profiling. It's actually understanding what's in it for them. What are their drivers and what are their motivations to your solutions? And it's not just from a business perspective either. People buy solutions for various business problems that they have, but behind that business problem is a person, and that person has an agenda, and that person has a motivation. It could be to, I want to do this so I can have a more secure job, or I want to do this so I can get promoted, or I want to do this as a stepping stone in my career to go on to do something else. And if you can really understand the drivers and motivations behind your audience, you can create marketing that will really resonate with them, and you can pull on those motivations during your copy and your videos and such like. So once you've got to know your audience, it's all about creating a strategy. So this is where you're going to say, this is what I want our marketing to do. This is what our philosophy on marketing is, and here's what we want to try and achieve from it. And then you can set your things up you need to set up from a technology perspective to be able to deliver. So whether that's your CRM or your social profile or whatever it is, there's things you've got to set up to enable yourself to deliver the strategy. And then again, the second sort of key area here of the process that I find a lot of people miss is having a tactical plan. And this can be any length. We do 3-month plans. We find it's a long enough time period that you can really measure success, but it's a short enough time period that the industry is not changing that quickly for most companies. So we make 3-month plans, and these are the specifics of what we are actually going to do in the strategy in this quarter. So these are things like, this is the specific title of the content I'm going to be writing. This is what the CTA on that the call to action on that content is going to be. So this is a real tactical plan. And again, what this avoids is coming in Monday morning thinking I better write some content. What should I write about? I'll have a look around the internet and this topic's trending or whatever, and I'm going to write about it. It actually gives your marketing intent, and it's got a purpose, it's got a strategy, and it fits in that holistic plan. And then just to wrap this process up, obviously you go and deliver the tactical plan, and then you evaluate what did work well, what didn't work so well, which influences the next quarterly tactical plan. And you keep running that process. And that's how you get holistic with your inbound marketing. The second bit is to make it personal. So we just heard personal brands are huge, company brands are huge, people do business with humans, and this needs to come through with your inbound marketing. So the way to think about this from like a phraseology perspective is, how can I be the person or the company that's known within this industry? And if you get known in the industry, that builds trust, and trust essentially is the critical element to getting anyone to interact or take action on any marketing you do. In fact, it's pretty much the critical element in business in terms of selling or whatever you're trying to achieve. So one way we decided we'll be purposeful about building trust in our company was to have what we would call a video first approach. So this is looking at the opportunities we have with all of those dozens of touch points with prospects and clients, and how can, instead of us just sending them an email or send them a PDF or whatever it is, have a video first approach which puts our personality at the center and builds trust. So we started this video first journey about 5 years or so ago. On screen's one of the first videos we ever did. It's just on like shot it on a phone with a £100 Blue Yeti mic. We flew out to Boston and we met this guy who's called Brian Halligan. He's the CEO of HubSpot. It was a very big marketing software company. And this was one of the first videos we did. It was part of our strategy to talk about where is HubSpot going? And that was a really important question for the prospects that we had. And ironically enough, his answer to some of the questions that we gave is like, if you were doing inbound marketing now, Brian, what would you be concentrating on? And his literal words were, start geeking out on video as opposed to text and do it everywhere within your business. Which wasn't a staged answer, because this is what we were literally there trying to achieve, but that was his answer. And it shows us good synergy there between where the future of this industry is going, which is very video heavy, and for good reason. So there's various elements. Obviously, we're mainly talking about marketing and things today, but I'll briefly touch on sales and service. But it's having a think through your processes and where can you inject these elements of a video first philosophy. So if you look at sales, for example, one of the hardest things for a salesperson right now is to stand out. Like in our industry, there's I think 6,000 HubSpot agencies. So we're one of 6,000 HubSpot agencies. When someone wants to get a quote or a tender or whatever it is from our agency, like how do we stand out between similar companies offering similar solutions on similar platforms? So one thing we do is our salespeople use video all the way through the process to really stand out in people's inboxes, but also critically to build trust. And one of the things I do here on a sales process is when I'm sending someone a proposal over, instead of just throwing them over a PDF with quite a lengthy document that they've got to try and read and understand, I literally put a video at the first page of the document, which talks them through it. So this is me saying, hey, I know I'm sending you a pretty lengthy document. I'm going to talk you through the logic of this, which will really help them understand the document better, what we're proposing. It takes any ambiguity out of it, but also it's building up those trust points with me as an advisor to them, or someone that they think of in that way. In marketing, obviously, there's a million ways you inject video into your marketing. Social media, as we've just heard, it could be on your landing pages, it could be literally anywhere, but I always have this approach. So if I'm inviting people to a webinar, I do it, hey, it's me, here's what I'll be talking about, here's why you should come see me. Or if I'm looking for speakers, like we just reach out to people quite well known in our industry with just a video. So as Mark, my business partner, just saying, hey, this is how we know you, this is when we last met you, this is the event we're running, would you like to be a speaker? And we found we had a much bigger uptake on people watching the videos and actually getting back to us and taking us up on our offer when we did this video first approach. And the last one is client services. So thinking about the full flywheel of your business and how you get traction, client services is a critical touch point in that as well. So again, instead of in our industry, people do like end of month reports, is your traffic going up, are you getting more leads, are you getting more revenue? And it can be very data centric. Instead of just throwing over a data board, maybe some annotated notes, we literally record it as a video, and it's like, here's me talking you through these, and here's how I feel about this, and here's why you should care about this metric. And again, it's building up that personal humanized element, which ultimately is building trust in us. And what happens when you get this right is you'll start to notice all of the KPIs you measure in all the different departments of your business start to increase. So literally from like a marketing perspective, we increase our traffic. The pages we use of video to explain why someone should fill in a form increase 63%. So instead of just saying, fill in this form, something's going to happen, there'll actually be a video saying, if you fill in this form, here's what's going to happen in an hour, you'll get an email, it's going to contain this, and this is why you should want it. When you actually talk that through with people, those submission rates increase. Same thing on our pricing guide. Like, why should you download our pricing guide? Why can't we just give you prices on our webpage? Because I explain it's really complex and there's a lot of factors, and that's why I can't do it. And it gets over people's objections to filling in forms and such like. It shortens the sales cycle. Like I say, you build trust, you build rapport, but you're also reducing ambiguity and questions that people have along the way by explaining things in a more human way. And then other things like hiring and such like as well. But it can really impact your full business by having that video first approach. And then the last bit I want to talk about is becoming the source of knowledge on a particular topic or multiple topics within your industry. And this really is key now when you look at inbound marketing. One of the pillars of any inbound marketing campaign or strategy should be SEO or organic marketing. For pretty much every client we got, that is their biggest source of traffic, it's their biggest source of leads, it's their biggest source of revenue. but it is a long-term project, which I'll get onto in a moment. And knowing this, it's really important to understand how search has changed and why search has changed over the last decade or so. So the big notable difference is the way we're using search engines, like we're driving this change. The queries or the things we type into Google are becoming much longer and much more complex than they were 10 years ago. Like we literally 10 years ago just used to put in words. It used to be like restaurants Manchester or something like that. Now we're putting in phrases like show me the best restaurants near me, and having this sort of conversational approach to search, which means search engines have to understand it and provide the context and intent for us. So show me the best restaurants near me. The search engine has to understand, okay, there's this best word, so they're probably looking for one that's the highest rating, so I'm going to show them some sort of rating website. And near me, okay, I've got to get his IP address or understand where his location is and serve him up restaurants in Manchester. So search engines have to get smarter, and the time they started really doubling down on this was when they introduced an algorithm called Hummingbird, which essentially allowed search engines like Google to understand semantics and intent. And this was the first real shift in how search marketers moved from keywords to topics. And because it's us driving this change, it's not Google driving the change, they're not changing the rule book, it's us, it's our ways of using search engines driving the change. That means this is going to continue and we need to move with it. So we need to stop thinking about SEO as a keyword strategy, which is still what you'll probably read about and think about, and maybe a little plugins for WordPress and stuff will want you to focus on. Where we really need to be focusing for success today and over the next few years to get ahead of our competition is owning topics. So owning an example of a topic, and it would be inbound marketing. How do we show Google we know inbound marketing? So when someone searches for all of these crazy and weird long phrases, it takes them to us. We won't have optimized for those keywords. We won't, because we can't. There's too many of them. They're too conversational. But they'll think of us because Google recognizes us as an expert in that topic. So how do we do that? We use a philosophy called topic clustering. So topic clustering is basically a group of content together to provide a holistic set of content on a topic. So inbound marketing would be the topic in this case. And in the center of it is a thing called a pillar page. So a pillar page is the central piece of content that is broadly going to give all of the answers you need. So if you think about something like Wikipedia, you'll be taken, if you search for, I don't know, how tall is Donald Trump or whatever is on your brain that day, it will take you to a page and it won't just say the answer. It won't just say however big he is, 6'3". It'll actually tell you other things about him as a person. And that would be called a pillar page, but critically it links out to more detailed side information on the topic, which shows Google like Wikipedia is an expert in this subject matter, and I'm going to send more people here if they want to find out more things about that. So this is what it looks like in practice. This is a topic cluster. You've got your central pillar page, your focal page. So for us, this would be a page about inbound marketing, probably be 5,000 words long. It would touch on what it is and what it isn't and when it should be used and what the methodology is, but probably in kind of a paragraph, a light touch way, because what we will have is all of this cluster content, which tend to be blogs, linked out to from it. So think of cluster content like the niche questions people have on the broader topic. So we might have clusters on how much does inbound marketing cost? What's the best software to run? What are the latest trends for this year? What part does SEO play? And these will all be a separate piece of content which link to the pillar page and link from the pillar page. And if you think you're a search engine, it's really easy for a search engine to land here, read this, and then think, they've got all of this content which supports the topic. These people know what they're talking about. It's really easy for users to get around and find things and understand the topic. So I'm going to deliver them to this website. Instead of the old way, which the old way of having a website structured was to have your main website. So your main website is your services, your about us page and such like. You'd have some sort of blog folder. So whether it's a subfolder like blog.website.com or it's website.com/blog. And then within that, you'd have categories or tags. But essentially a blog is just a random list of content, like just random, normally just in like time order. So it's really difficult if you're a search engine landing here and you're thinking, okay, they talked about inbound marketing here, they talked about TV advertising here, they talked about the trends in SEO. It's really hard for them to make the connections that you're an expert in SEO, because you're making the search engine really work for the money. And unless you've got huge authority, which is what search engines will decide how much time to spend on your website, they're not actually going to spend the time to make these links for you and figure it out. So you've got less chance of becoming a topical expert on something like Google. What your structure of your website will look like if you do a topic cluster approach is this. So you've got your main website here, it's your products, your services, your About Us page, and then you would have clusters of content. So this one here could be inbound marketing, and these are all of our supporting pieces of content. This one could be about HubSpot and all of our supporting pieces of content. And if you think you're a search engine, I'm going to land here, I'm going to go here. Oh, they've got all this on inbound, I'm going to come out. Okay, they've got all this on HubSpot, I'm going to come out. And then they will literally be able to see the things you're an expert in and the things you provide a good experience for. So from a search engine's perspective, landing, going in, understanding the topic, coming out, versus, okay, I've got to figure out what's going on here. I've got to make connections between all these. It's just super inefficient. And you're going to pay for that inefficiency because Google hasn't got the time and resources to figure your own website out for you and make you a topical expert in things. So the benefits of doing topic clustering beyond attracting traffic and such like is it actually helps your personas, your prospects, whatever you want to call them, actually genuinely helps them. They're going to land there, and instead of, okay, I've got a pogo stick around Google to find all my answers, you're going to tell me what inbound marketing is, but you're not going to show me how much it costs, or you're not going to tell me the software is what. I've got to go and search again in Google, like, oh, I like the sound of this, now I've got to search the costs, now I've got to search the software. You're actually helping the persona by taking them on the journey and giving them the resources they need in the same website, which links into this number 2. It improves your what I call user metrics from a digital marketing perspective, which is essentially engagement. How long do people stay on the site? How deep do they click through? Do they have to leave your site to do other things? It actually increases these, which again is a critical part of successful SEO. It attracts more links. That's natural people linking to you, linking to your content. It helps you rank higher, as we've discussed. And one of the critical pieces is it shows you what gaps you have in your content strategy. So if you're planning out a topic cluster and you're thinking, okay, I need to answer all these questions people might have about inbound marketing, you've actually just got to get in the mind of your user, write them down on a piece of paper, and you might think, I've actually not got anywhere that answers how much inbound marketing costs. Like, that's something I've got to do, which in turn gives your content purpose. And again, you're not turning up on Monday morning thinking, oh my goodness, what do I write about today? I've got to do a blog. You've actually got a strategy, you've got gaps that you can write in that fill those in. And then the final one, from like an overall business perspective, is it helps sales. Sales have suddenly got somewhere to send people to do some research, to answer their questions, and again, build trust and authority by showing, look, we've wrote all this stuff for you, and we're really genuinely trying to help you in your business. And what can happen if you get this right? Well, this is, of those 81 clients I spoke about that we've done inbound marketing for, this is a chart of how they've grown using a topic cluster approach. And you'll see the difference here between the best sort of impact we've had on a client and the worst impact we've had on a client. Actually not massively different. The thing that's mainly different is like, how long does it take to get real impact, which for most companies is this sort of, I don't know, 7-8 month approach. And you'll see the sort of impact you have is your 2, 3, 4, 5x, depending on your starting point. The amount of traffic leads, the funnel to your website, and it's a compounding, scalable way to grow the business. So to recap, inbound marketing, it's hugely adopted, hugely successful. It's been around a long time. So to stay ahead of the competition, think about it holistically. Don't use silo channels, expecting them to do everything. Ask what's next. How do I want the user to go from A to B to C? Make it personal. Build up trust, because that's the key element of marketing. And one of the ways you can make it personal is to have that video first approach. And the last one is be the source of knowledge on a topic. Don't try and optimize your website, your content for keywords anymore. Try and think, how can I show Google I am the owner, I am the master of a particular topic? And that's it. That's how you'll stay ahead of the competition. So happy to open up to any questions at this point.
Thank you very much for that, Rikki. Some really interesting insights there. We've got a few questions in terms of the training industry. So a number of participants and delegates and people who will be on the call today are training businesses themselves. What advice would you give training providers who use the website for clients to go on, view their courses, book courses? What advice would you give them for optimizing the website and increasing traffic and conversion rates?
The fantastic thing with training and education providers and things is it really suits itself to educational content. Like, that's the business, that's what you're in there to do. And when we've gone in and worked with companies like that have had things on the websites like syllabuses, so here's a PDF of like what you'll learn in our course. The way we do it is we make that a web page, and then we'll break out. If you think of that pillar approach, you can break out from each of the bullet points in the what's in the syllabus into a topic cluster. So the first thing you're going to learn is SEO, and you can link to the cluster on SEO. The second thing you're going to learn is PPC. And again, you're building the trust with the user because they can go on this journey, they can start learning, know that you know what you're talking about before they have to jump in, pay you £500 and do the training. They can get a sense that you know what you're talking about by the content that you provide them.
Excellent. And one thing I'm just picking up from Graham Davis' talk previously, the use of video in training. You talked a lot there, going out to, I think it was at Boston to see HubSpot as well, that video is becoming more and more prevalent. You got any advice in terms of developing video content for different platforms? So for website, what type of videos would you have on there? And does that differ from your social channels like LinkedIn? Does the content, the type of videos differ from platform and engagement type?
Yeah, 100%. It's having to think about what does this video need to articulate in order to drive that action. So on your website, a lot of people on the homepage will throw in a video which kind of explains the solution or what it is you've got to do, which is fine. But when you start getting deeper into the website, your videos need to be really tailored and specific. So take our pricing page, like the most important page on our website. The video there is very informative of why you need to fill out that form, what's going to happen if you fill out that form. If you're looking at things like social media, you've got things like time restraints and length and size and things to think about. So the video should be dictated by what you're trying to achieve. So when people say, how long should my video be? It's like, it should be the length of whatever you need to achieve the thing you're trying to achieve. I think the biggest objection we ever have to it is, I'm scared of getting on camera, I don't have the equipment, whatever these things are. Like, we literally started doing all of this. We started our podcast on a phone, and we got like 1,000 listeners a month. Like, you can get going really inexpensively with video now and actually have decent looking end product from basic things.
I suppose it's more important the content rather than necessarily the quality to start with.
Exactly. I mean, audio's normally the key. Like, people will forgive a ropey looking video. People will get annoyed if the audio is like really bad. So if you're going to spend money to produce video, my advice would be like, most cameras, most phones will do a good enough job, but invest in good microphones, because that's what makes the real difference.
Good tip. In terms of prioritization, so one thing I know marketing teams can struggle with this, and particularly in the post-COVID world or COVID world we're still in. What's your best piece of advice for training companies who are working on a limited marketing budget? What would you advise them to prioritize?
I think first thing first is to go and do that. If you can actually get the data to do that sales to marketing funnel. So if you can say, this is how much tracking I'm getting, these are my conversion rates, this is how many leads I'm getting, these are my conversion rates, that data will actually tell you where to prioritize. You can go online, get industry benchmarks, and if your website's converting at 0.05%, which a lot of people's are, then your prioritization shouldn't be, I need 10,000 more visitors, because ultimately it's not going to have an impact. Your prioritization should be, I want to increase my conversion rate. And when my conversion rate's good, then I can pour more people into the top of the funnel and I'll get more success out of it. So it's looking through the data at where am I strong, where am I weak, where am I ahead of the competition, where am I behind the competition, and then literally prioritizing it based on what the data says. Because every company here will be in a completely different situation. They'll have done marketing for different lengths of time on different channels, and they'll all have different things which are priority for them.
Absolutely. So working on that funnel, understanding where the conversion rates are, and then addressing that issue is the key starting point for you.
Yeah, exactly that.
Absolutely. And then the final thing here is in terms of the nurture strategy, what's the most important part of developing a good nurture strategy, in your opinion?
Yeah, nurture strategies are tricky, to be fair. So we've over the years had I don't know, a good dozen ways that we think this should work. So the way we do it today is if you download a piece of content from our website, the first nurture emails that you'll receive from us will be 100% within the context of the thing you downloaded. So you've downloaded a guide to inbound marketing. So I know that's where your head's at. You don't need to be talking to our sales team now. You're trying to figure out what this thing is. So I'm going to help you learn more about what it is. And that's going to be my first 2 or 3 emails. If people engage with that, and this is a key bit, don't just keep sending emails if they're not engaged in those first couple of ones. So have a point where you say, let's check if they engaged. If they did, I move them into the second part of the funnel, which is for us, we show that we know them. So we say, look, we know you're a marketing manager. I was a marketing manager. He's where I had pain. I'm sure you've got pain with this. You've got loads of ideas. You can't execute them. You can't get the budget you want from your boss, whatever the common challenges are. So we put ourselves in their shoes and again, build that trust that we're like them and they can rely on the information we're going to give. And then again, if they engage with that, that's when we go into the decision stage mode, which is, okay, you've learned about inbound marketing. We kind of know where you're probably at with it. Now, here's some case studies of like what happens if it goes really well. And here's some pricing and kind of how you should move on from the stage you're at. Where I see a lot of companies going wrong is someone downloads an ebook and they just go for the kill. It's like, you've downloaded an ebook on what is inbound marketing, now pay us £10,000 a month and give us a call. It's like, that's too quick. And it's too impersonal. So it's understanding where they're at and really providing the nurture from that point. So if I was researching something for the first time, what would I want to know over the next days, weeks, months, in some cases, before I'm ultimately going to buy it?
So that nurture campaign, looking at it from, you used the word holistic, looking at how it's performing. The temptation, I suppose, sometimes is to make tweaks and amendments too much. How often should you review the success of your nurture campaigns before making tweaks and amendments to it?
Yeah, and again, it's another tough one, really. Where we tend to focus most people is not so much reviewing with time, but reviewing with numbers. Like, you actually need if you've not had 100 people through it, the data is going to be garbage. Like, you're not going to be able to tell. It's going to be so random and sporadic. Like, it worked this guy, but then someone else downloaded 2 days later. They're in a completely different situation. So I would say get 100 people through so you can actually get some like statistical relevance of what you're analyzing, and then going from there, which for some people you can get 100 downloads in a day, but for some people that's a 6-month thing. And I think for most of our clients, like, those things tend to happen quarterly, biannually. Like, we're not in every day looking at that stuff. I think it's really important to get good data before you tweak things, so you can actually understand if you're making an impact or not.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Rikki. That brings us just about to the end of the session. So yeah, really, from Access Planet and from everyone here, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Some great takeaways there as well.